Well, we are right on 11 o'clock.
Italy. What's up, Italy?
Yeah. Wow, Italy too?
Yeah. Chicago, North Carolina.
Oh, this is great.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we can get it started. I was gonna say good morning to everyone because it's morning on the West Coast, but from the looks of where everyone's from, it doesn't really apply. But welcome anyway to the Best of the Best webinar series brought to you by Novedge, the design software superstore. Again, thanks for all of you joining in with us today. We're not only really excited to present T-Splines, but T-Splines version 3, and also to have Matt and Kyle both here with us going through this release. Just a little background on Kyle, who's going to be doing the demoing. He's the owner of the Outside Digital Art and Design, and also the head T-Splines trainer. He's modeled over 1,000 vehicles for the toy and entertainment industries and uses T-Splines to create organic models in his daily modeling consulting business. Plus, little known fact about Kyle, he's a passionate advocate for California's Central Valley, like myself. Matt Soderberg, on the other hand, is kind of the man with the plan, if you will. He started T-Splines Inc. while he was actually still in college at BYU in Utah in about 2004. Right after the T-Splines technology was introduced at SIGGRAPH as a paper by his dad, Dr. Tom Soderberg, in 2003. He's now the CEO of T-Splines Inc., and so we're really lucky to have him here today with us. Both are talented, and both are going to be kind of working through this new release for us. Kind of a little bit about the format. Matt's going to talk at first a little bit of an intro on T-Splines, and then after that he's going to pass it off to Kyle, who's going to kind of go through some of the new features of version 3. So they're going to be speaking for about 45 minutes, and then we're going to kind of open it back up for a Q&A session for about 15 minutes. Plus, drum roll, we're going to have a little surprise announcement from Novedge after the whole demo. So make sure you stick around for that. And if you're wondering, this webinar is being recorded. It'll be available online following the webinar. So if you get called away from your desk, or if you need to take off, no worries. You'll be able to pick up where you left off with that recording. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Matt, let me just make you a presenter, and you're good to go.
Okay. Okay, let me see where that, just lost control of my mouse. Okay, can you see my screen?
We can.
Okay, great. Yeah, so just a little bit of an introduction to T-Splines. When I was talking with Frank, there's a few hundred people that will be in attendance today, and I realized that probably not everyone has been familiar with T-Splines. The purpose of this webinar was really to introduce the next version of T-Splines, T-Splines version 3. But I wanted to just take a few minutes to introduce what T-Splines is in the first place. And so we created T-Splines to make a fast, fun, and robust way to do concept design, shape exploration, and organic design inside of Rhino. Let's talk a little bit about each of those things. Creating organic designs fast in other software is hard to do, since most CAD software is simply not designed to handle organic models. One of our users mentioned that their styling team wanted the design to be more organic and less mechanical, so an engineer ended up spending over 4 weeks trying to struggle to get that model more organic using other software, and finally Matthew was able to get an accepted model with T-Splines in a couple of days and then iterate on that model in real time, making it a little softer here, more taper there. And that's the power of T-Splines, is letting you get organic designs faster. T-Splines is also designed to be a little bit more fun than your traditional CAD software. Some of our users say that it helps the natural artist or designer come out, or that it's just a more fun, creative way to work. So as you'll notice that Kyle will also often be even though he's just demoing the new features in version 3, he'll be designing while he's working, and that's something that it's a fun way to work, to be able to design actually while you're doing your models. And then finally, it was really important for us to make T-Splines a very robust, mathematically robust solution. This type of feedback comes in fairly often, where T-Splines reads in with 0 errors or gaps to downstream software. That's because it is actually a mathematically watertight technology that converts perfectly to NURBS. So as Kyle is introducing T-Splines version 3 today, I just kind of wanted to give that background as to why T-Splines was developed. So I've asked Kyle to take just a couple minutes to introduce what T-Splines is before he goes into the new commands. He won't spend a lot of time on that, but if you are brand new to T-Splines, and you want more of a background, you can come to our website, go to our community webinars, and then take a look at some of the previous webinars that we've done, especially this bike frame webinar, or the helicopter webinar, the scissor webinar. These all give introductions as to the basic T-Splines commands. So again, Kyle will take just a couple minutes to introduce the basics, and then he'll move on to the new stuff available in T-Splines version 3. So I'll make Kyle the presenter, and as that switching over to him, just some words as far as where T-Splines version 3 is at. It's currently available as a work in progress. That's a pre-release build. If you have a full license of T-Splines version 2, you can go to our website and download that. And we're expecting the commercial release to come out in the first quarter of 2011. But if you do go ahead and buy T-Splines today, then you'll get version 3 as a free upgrade. So with that background, go ahead, Kyle.
Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm assuming everybody sees my screen. Matt, we're good there?
Yeah, it looks great.
Yep, great.
Great. Okay. Basically, what I wanted to do is first of all, some of you will notice right off the bat that I'm using the beta version of Rhino 5. I'm using also the WIP 3 of T-Splines here. So I've got 2 work in progress softwares working on top of each other, and so far everything's been working great. But if any computer gremlins raise their head in the midst of this, just know I'm running 2 whips on top of each other. So I did want to show specifically that the 64-bit versions of both of these softwares are working and playing nicely together. So let's just jump into a little bit of what T-Splines is and what it does. And basically what it is a subdivision surface modeling plugin for Rhino. And what it allows you to do is to create highly organic, seamless shapes very, very quickly by using a box modeling technique where you have a polygon control cage underneath. The model is essentially built up of polygonal faces. So anybody familiar with polygonal modeling or sub-D modeling from a program like Modo or something like that will be really familiar in this. But you'll notice when we switch back over to smooth mode here that the objects that you can create in T-Splines are objects that would be fairly difficult to create in NURBS, at least, and have this kind of quality of transition and surface. And I'm also showing a little bit of the new V5 display stuff going on here. This is just an environment map that was thrown into a default shader channel, but you can see that the results are actually really pretty nice. So if you look at what's going on, even this simple model here of this golf club head, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a face that's stepped out. There's a little transition here. There's another transition going on here, and then all of this stuff is blending smoothly. And if I throw a zebra on this, you can see that the model is curvature continuous all the way through in these transitions. Now, I've been NURBS modeling for 10 or 15 years now, and I consider myself to be fairly competent at it, but I got to tell you, if I had to model this and have this kind of zebra stripe without T-Splines, I think I would be sweating a little bit. I may be able to do it, but I certainly wouldn't be able to do it in about the 6 minutes that it took to make this golf club model. So, for me, I'm finding that there's, in my business practice, I work with Matt and the T-Splines guys doing some training consulting and some demos and things like that. But I also have a working design practice, and I use T-Splines pretty much every day, and I'm seeing just absolutely astounding productivity gains in being able to create models like this. This model, for instance, was created from a single curve, which actually is this edge loop right here. And it was extruded in, extruded out, extruded back, and then this was extruded up. And this entire model literally took about, I don't know, between 6 to 8 minutes to create. It's watertight. We were able to use it for volumetric analysis and do all that kind of stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the improvements in V3. And the first thing I want to address is the speed issue. If you notice, if I pick a couple of faces here.
Kyle, just here, before you jump in, I did mention that we're not going to introduce everything about T-Splines, so if you do want to get that background, then you can watch one of our recorded webinars. But if you have any questions at all, go ahead and type them in. We've got some people here that will respond, so any questions at all about anything about T-Splines, we can respond to that while Kyle's going on, so that would be just fine. So.
Absolutely. And also, if I'm doing something and you have a question about something that I'm doing, go ahead and throw that in there. And if it's something that we can work out and do live, we'll be happy to try and address as many questions as possible. So the first thing I wanted to show is I have this set up currently to compatible mode, which is fairly close to what the previous T-Splines speed was. And if you notice, I'm moving my mouse, and the model's reacting, but there's quite a bit of lag that's going on here, where if I open up, let me undo that. If I open up the T-Splines options, which is under the Help menu, you'll notice that there's 3 different settings here. There's compatible, fast, and fastest. And basically what this allows me to do, in compatible mode, it's basically like it used to be, and all the Rhino commands are compatible with it, and anything that you could do, Rhino commands on a T-Spline surface are still compatible. It's set into this mode. If we kick it over into fast or fastest mode, basically what we're doing is stripping away some of the Rhino functionality, but we're dramatically speeding up the T-Splines manipulation. And I find that this is a really good way to work when you're roughing something out. For instance, if we kick over to fastest mode, let it update, you'll notice that the model updates much more quickly. And the difference between fast and fastest mode, it's basically the same mode. You're still stripping out a few of the Rhino commands, but if we go into shaded mode here, you'll notice that in fastest mode, you're seeing a little bit of surface defect going on here in the display because the T-Splines mesh is not being smooth as much as it would be if we were to go into options. If we were to go into fast mode, we lose a little bit of speed, but we gain a little bit of smoothness. If I shade this, you'll notice that that creasing is gone. Or not creasing, it's actually just a discontinuity. But you notice that we still get better performance over compatible mode. When I'm doing this stuff, I like to work in fast mode because I understand that it's just a matter of changing the mode to make it go into compatible mode. So what I'll do is I'll rough the model out in fastest mode because that offers a really direct, really quick way of interacting with this model. And then when I need to start refining it and getting into things that are going to involve evaluating highlights and transitions between surfaces, I'll go into fast mode, or if I'm getting to the point where I'm getting close to finishing up the model, converting the thing into NURBS or something like that, I'll kick it into compatible mode, and then it'll give me the rest of the control that I'm using here. But this fast mode is really nice. You'll notice a dramatic improvement in dealing with your model. You'll notice a dramatic improvement when you're extruding surfaces and things like that. So it allows you to rough the model out pretty quickly and get the surfaces that you need, and then you can obviously just change the mode and start refining further. So that's kind of the news in the speed category, on top of the fact that we are going 64-bit with this, so you'll be able to use all the RAM that's installed on a 64-bit machine. So let's talk about the next feature, which is selection sets. And this is a really cool new feature in version 3 that allows you to pick a series of faces. And if we go into the T-Splines menu under selection sets, it'll bring up a palette here that has some very simple icons. And basically this is the easiest thing in the world to do. You just pick a couple of objects. They can be edges, faces, or verts. Hit the record button, and hit the record button, give it a name, and then when you deselect, if you hit the play button, they show back up again. So if I want to do this for verts, I can go back in my window here. I can pick a couple of verts, hit the record button, rename it. Let me rename it. There we go. Come back here and deselect, and if I hit the play button, it will switch to vert mode and light up those verts. So this is great if you're building something like, in this particular case, this is a jewelry shank here, be the base for a pendant or something like that, and say I wanted to create an object that I was going to repurpose a whole bunch of times, and I was going to do some variations on this. Well, maybe what I'd want to do is create a selection set out of this so that I could do one variation where this thing is skinny, another variation where it's here, another variation where this is thicker, and repurpose this thing several times. Well, what I could do is I could save this file as a piece of clip art. The selection sets are obviously going to be saved with that, and then you can go back and readdress that issue at any time. So it also is really great for character modeling if you want to create some sort of organic character or something like that, and you need to get into the eyelids or the faces or the cheeks or the lips or anything like that. You can create a selection set out of those things and then go in and allow yourself to tweak them very quickly. To get rid of it, all you do is just hit the X button and it gets rid of it, and obviously these are saved with the file when you go from there. The next thing we want to look at is the new Symmetry Tools, and the new Symmetry Tools are really, really awesome. And basically, the first thing that I wanted to show about Symmetry. Well, first of all, let me just throw one more thing in here. We're no longer origin constrained for creating objects, so I can create objects anywhere in a scene now. That's something that everybody's been asking for a while. You can do it. The second half of that is Symmetry is now no longer origin constrained. And the Symmetry tools actually have a couple of really cool new features. One of them is the ability to discover symmetry on an object. And you'll notice here I have this very simple cube that I've mushed around a little bit. And you'll notice that one side doesn't match the other. But say I was over here tooling on this part, and I got this the way I wanted it, and I wanted that symmetry to kick over to the other side. Well, all I have to do is jump under the modification menu, click the Symmetry button, select my object. This is going to be an axial symmetry, and I can either pick a plane or I can actually discover this symmetry, and in this case I'm going to click an edge, and you'll notice that it flipped the symmetry of the model from one side to the other. Now you'll notice it picked this side as opposed to this side. That might not be what I want, so I'm going to re-invoke the command, and I'm going to pick a different spot, and you'll notice that it actually copied the symmetry from one side to the other. So now if I grab a face over here, it's going to react the same. This is a whip. This is work in progress. Matt and I just had a discussion yesterday about coming up with some sort of visual interface to determine which side of the symmetry plane you're going to get depending on where you click. If you guys have any input or thoughts on that, hit us up with it. These tools are still in development, and one of the cool things about being able to do this webinar is we're able to let you peek under the hood a little bit and see what we're working on. So if you see something you like, or you see something that you like that you think could be cooler, I'll give you Matt's home phone number, or at least his email. So that's symmetry on an axial point of view. The one thing I would want to mention is that this, in order to discover the symmetry and have it copy over, the topography has to match on both sides. So if I extrude a face here and I try and discover symmetry, my topology no longer matches from side to side. And discover this. If I pick it here, it says it's unable to add symmetry. However, if I pick a face here and I extrude this, notice they're still not matching, but at least the topology matches. I can go back in here, pick my object, discover symmetry here, and it will copy that over depending on where I pick. And now you can continue to modify after the symmetry has been discovered. Very cool, very powerful new trick for symmetry. And again, obviously, it's not origin constrained, as you can see here. So there's more in symmetry that's really awesome, and we'll look at this from an axial point of view. And in this case, I have a torus, and there's 32 faces around this, and I want to divide it into 8 sections. I've created a selection setup here so I can pick the right edge so that this works like I practiced it. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to discover some axial or some radial symmetry on this piece and create it. And what I can do is I can actually mess around with this a little bit to start with and say, okay, that's pretty much what I want. Something kind of like this. And now I want to spray that around this whole model. So I'm going to go to symmetry, pick my object. It's going to be radial symmetry now. I'm going to change this to 8 segments, and I'm going to discover. I'm going to pick a face here. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to pick this face here, and you'll notice that it divides the model into 8 segments, copies the symmetry around, and all these faces now are editable and they update. You love this. Now, you can also isolate pieces of this symmetry, like say for instance I wanted to preserve a couple of details in here, but I still wanted the ability to modify symmetry in the rest of the model. I could pick a couple of faces here and I could go to remove symmetry, isolate, and you'll notice that now these change colors, and now when I move stuff, those pieces are going to stay put, whereas the rest of the model updates symmetrically. So this is a cool new feature to be able to look in. If you get an object or a piece of geometry that you like and it's locked in and you don't want it to move, it will stay put.
Yeah, and just one note about that, Kyle. When you're only locking down one face, it's kind of, or a couple faces, it's kind of hard to really tell that's locking it down because the control points on the border are not locked down. It's only whatever's inside that. So
right.
You might want to isolate a little bit more of an area. That way you'd have an edge or a control point that's actually inside the isolated region, and then you can really see that it's.
Let's do that.
So
we'll remove symmetry. We'll isolate.
Just isolate that much. Now if you move like the center face in there, then it will be if you move that face, then none of the other center faces will move.
There we
That's
go.
kind of how that works. So that
There we
it
go.
lets you have part of the model be symmetric, part of the model not symmetric. But then if you move the rest of the model that does have symmetry on still, then it will still update everywhere.
Right. And that's why Matt's the man. Excellent. So cool symmetry tricks. The next thing I want to show is the tool that scares me the most. Is and this is something that's in development. This is a really, really awesome tool. But I don't think I'm telling any secrets here to say that, full disclosure, this tool is probably not quite ready for prime time yet. Basically what I'm showing here is the pull tool, and what this allows you to do is to take an object. I don't know if you can see this, but I have a let me ghost the view here. I have a polysurface model, a Rhino camera model. This is all just Rhino polysurfaces joined, and then I have a T-Splines model over the outside of it. And basically what I'm going to do is vac form this T-Splines object over the NURBS object to use that as a starting point for further refinement. So let's go ahead and run this tool, and hopefully it's going to behave itself. So, and we want to use control points pull type, right, Matt?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to pull this T-mesh. I'm going to pull it to this object. It works actually fairly quickly. And we'll go back to our shaded view. Let me hide the Rhino camera here. And you'll notice that what it did was it did a fairly good job of sucking the T-Splines model down onto the polysurface model so that you can use this for further refinement. This is a standard T-Splines model at this point. You can go and modify it and do anything you want. We're working on a few ideas on how to make this tool better because it's not quite ready yet, but I wanted to show it just because I think the potential is really, really awesome. Some of the things we're talking about are ways to interactively subdivide the model to let you suck in bits and pieces of the pulled model to more closely resemble the original target model, and ways to kind of make that more useful. But the goal here is to be able to have a T-Splines object and then kind of back form over a bunch of other polysurfaces that may, maybe you take a bunch of junk, throw it together in space, and then suck a T-Splines surface over it. And now you've taken these disjointed pieces and created a new single surface watertight T-Splines model that you can then edit and modify. So very cool. It's, like I said, it's work in progress. If you have any ideas or thoughts or things that you think that would make this better, go ahead and chime in. I think that this has the potential, once it's developed completely, to be a really, really super powerful way of working. If you imagine throwing a bunch of stuff out in space and then sucking a T-Splines surface over it and then working on the T-Splines model from there, you could see how you could very quickly get some really awesome geometry that then allows you to have all the benefits of the regular T-Splines stuff, which is the seamless manipulation, watertight topology, and then obviously being able to offset it and create a thickness at a way, further on down the line. So this is one we love. We just don't love it as it sits just yet. The last one I want to show, and this is actually my favorite feature in the whole release, is the pipe command. And pipe is about as awesome can be as far as I'm concerned. Basically what it allows you to do, these are just Rhino curves thrown in space. Nothing special about them. You'll notice it up here in the heads-up display, it just says it's 8 curves. They're not joined, they're not trimmed, but they are touching. All these points are on top of each other, so that this stuff is all touching to a certain extent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the pipe command. I'm going to pick these curves, and I'm going to run the pipe command. and you'll notice that it gives me this big, gigantic display with all this stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is point out there's a couple of things here. There's a radius for each one of these segments. There's also a display to show how many segments are between each piece, and we can adjust the angle and the spacing and all that kind of stuff. So let's jump into this a little bit. First thing I want to do is drop the radius. I'm going to drop the overall radius to 0.1, and you'll notice that my display drops down and shows a much, kind of more reasonable tube thickness. The next thing I'm going to do is change the segments, because if you'll notice here, there's a whole lot of segments. Each one of these boxes is going to end up being a T-spline space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the number of segments. So when I click the segment option in the toolbar, or in the command line, you'll notice that these dots come up. All I have to do is select these. And I'm going to change these segments here. Right-click to accept. You'll notice that the original segment count was 35. I'm going to change that to 3. After a second, that will update. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick these and these. I'm going to right-click to accept that. There's 10 segments there currently. I'm going to change that to 1 because I don't need that many faces in there. So you notice the display has simplified pretty dramatically. And at this point, all I need to do is just right-click to accept, and you'll notice that I get a preview of a T-Splines box mode model, which all I need to do to flip that over is hit the Tab key, and I get a single watertight bicycle frame model. Now, full disclosure here. If you notice on this side, we get, as soon as my toolbar shows up again, no, I don't want that. There we go. You'll notice that I have a really cool transition here, and the way that the patch is laid out really nicely to the side of the model. If I turn it around, which I debated not showing this, but I don't roll that way. I got to tell you guys what's going on. This isn't symmetrical the way the patch is laid out. So in this particular case, this would be a really great way to iterate on a bicycle frame. I can either have this transition here, or I can have a transition like this. And whichever one I liked, all I'd have to do is either invoke symmetry or throw away half the model, mirror it, and stitch it together. But what I did want to show is basically, if anybody saw the bicycle frame tutorial that we did earlier, I basically took an hour to build a bike frame that actually came out very similar to this kind of transition structure in here. And I just wanted to show that you could essentially build the exact same bike frame in about 25 seconds. So that's a really cool feature of the pipe command. Let's look at a few more things within pipe, because this is my favorite piece of the new release. So more Rhino curves. I just have them thrown in space, and they're also fairly disorganized. They are all touching, but I also wanted to show that in this case, they're coincident at this intersection, but they're not trimmed. So I can run the pipe command again, and I got to change my radius. And if I just accept this as is, just to demonstrate the point, you'll notice that it goes and builds my box preview. Oops. Try this again, sorry. Change my radius. And I'm going to change my output type to smooth and right-click to accept. It'll go ahead and construct a model. And you'll notice that in most cases, it joined things up right here. Well, the reason that it didn't join up all the way, it made this intersection really nice, it made this intersection really nice, but it missed here and here and here and here. Well, there's a reason for that. It's because these curves are really sloppy, and they're not perfectly coincident where they touch. The tool actually has some stuff built in to deal with that. If I change this to 0.1 again, and then I look at the dicing, you'll notice that it'll indicate where the intersections are. And in this case, I've got a 3, which means that's a correct intersection. I've got a 3 there, but I've got a 1 and 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 a 1. That's not what I want. So I'm going to change the tolerance on this to 0.1. And you'll notice that it updates and says, oh, okay, you meant that this is supposed to be touching all that kind of stuff. Now if I accept this and let it build, I get a connected model where everything is touching and put together. This is a regular T-Splines model. Everything's watertight and ready to roll. If you look at the transitions here, you'll notice that we're getting really high quality joints. Now remember, I'm showing this in fastest display, so this stuff is just a display artifact. All we have to do to get rid of that is to change speed modes. But if you think about the applications of this from for jewelry guys, for I don't know, architecture, bicycle frames, anything that eyewear, anything like that that you could essentially create framework out of curves and then just pipe it. There's some really powerful applications here. Let me show one more feature on this because I like this tool so much. I'm going to change my radius again. I'm going to set up my dicing. And then I'm going to change my segments on a couple of these. Let me just change that one. I'm going to change it from 16 segments to 3. You'll notice that that updates. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a handle. And this allows me to pick somewhere on this curve and add a handle. Right-click to accept that I'm done. Then I can go in and I can adjust the radius on this thing. And so I can go in and actually vary on the radius within this model. Now I can right-click to accept. And you'll see that it updates and allows you to go in and add some thickness and some variation change. It doesn't have to be just straight pipes. One more example of this that I liked was this guy. Let me just get rid of this real quick. And basically, if this is just a curve layout, I'm going to pipe this again. And I'm going to go in and change the radius on this to 0.5. And then I'm going to go in and modify this stuff. I'm going to change the radius on some of these. I'm going to really blow up the shoulders. And I'm going to sink this area down a little bit. Maybe I'll bring these down too. Now I can double click this and add a number if I want to, but if I just go and accept that as is, you'll notice that you can actually create some fairly robust forms out of just a couple of curves. This could easily be the start of a character where my patches are laid out really well and really well organized, and obviously you can control the number of segments, where it would be really easy to start going in and messing with this thing to create, some sort of character. I did notice when I update this stuff, for some reason my shader changes, but that's obviously something we'll get straightened out going forward. So that's the pipe command, and that's basically the main features that I wanted to show on V3 today. If you have any questions, go ahead and start spraying them at us, and we'll address them as best as we can. Obviously, there's a ton more information on the T-Splines website. My experience with the T-Splines guys is, besides being ridiculously nice people, they really seriously want to help you guys out. So if you have questions, contact me, contact Matt, Juan, any of the other T-Splines guys are happy to help you out. We really want to help you guys get involved in this exciting new technology, and I'm fairly confident that it's not going to be long before a considerable amount, if not the bulk of product design modeling, is going to be done with T-Splines or some other type of sub-D surface modeling. I think it's just too powerful and too cool of a way to work for it not to be a seriously disruptive, game-changing technology. So that's my demo for today. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit us with them, And I'll kick it back to Frank at this point and say thanks for letting us talk at you.
All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Kyle. Matt, you there?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we should definitely kind of work through like a Q&A session now. Is there any questions that you wanted to address, Matt?
Yeah, we've got a bunch. Did you want to do your little blurb now or after that, Frank?
Oh, well, we can talk. We can wrap. I'll wrap it up.
Okay, great.
Cool. So you're.
Well, let's go ahead and make Kyle a presenter again. Actually,
Okay.
I got my monitor set at way too high resolution. So, just a couple more things about pipe, Kyle. I didn't catch? Did you show how it works with history?
I did not show the history. No.
Do you know how that works?
I have a feeling you're going to tell me.
Okay, so if you go, this is one of the coolest things with pipe is that, so look at the bottom of Kyle's screen, he has record history turned on.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can go ahead and change the radius. One other thing, if you could just show Kyle, you can change the radius on those existing handles. Oh,
Yes.
You can show that way.
We did show that, yeah.
But, okay, so if you, so right now Kyle has as a T-spline model, and as long as you do not move the T-splines control points, if you move, if you turn the control points of the curve, you might want to exit the T-spline mode so that you kind of hide those T-spline control points. So just turn on control points only on that curve. Then you can drive the T-spline by moving these curves, these control points. So as you drag that, you can see the T-spline will update.
Oh, I like that. You're keeping that secret, weren't you?
And so
That's
you
awesome.
can even, Kyle, if you grab one of those curves that doesn't have the control points on,
Mm-hmm.
like move it out, and move that curve so it's not intersecting anymore.
Wow.
You want to go shaded mode, but it will undo that. It'll break apart the T-spline, and if you move it back, it will intersect again. You have to make sure that it actually touches this exactly.
Yeah, I don't think those are touching, but
One other cool thing is you can re-enter that pipe command. So if you make the pipe command and then you play around with your model, and I don't think the point won't snap because it's not playing on the curve, but you can re-enter the pipe command by, there you go.
that's awesome.
So if you select that line from Kyle, select the T-spline model,
Mm-hmm.
and let's maybe children turn on or something. No, there you go. If you enter the pipe command and select the model first, then it will remember your last settings. So you can see how it went back in and remember you had different radiuses there. So you can come back in and change the radius later without having to go back to the curve. So that's kind of cool.
Ooh.
Jump back into the model and do your modifications like that instead of dragging control.
Oh, you big thunder stealer. That's awesome. I
Um,
love that.
all right. Okay, another question. There's one question about implementations with Grasshopper. Yeah, just 10 minutes before this webinar started, I was watching some of my developers, and we do have a Grasshopper implementation that hopefully will get released tomorrow. It's kind of a basic one. We have some of our commands hooked up, like we have pipe hooked up, we have extrude command hooked up. You can bake T-splines and re-T-splines in. So that's something we're excited to get out and look for more feedback as far as what more we can expose for Grasshopper. Let's see, some other questions. What Windows operating system will give the best results, and will there ever be a Mac version? Kyle, I don't think any Windows operating system is better than any other. Do you have any experience with that?
You know, I'm using Vista, which most people cringe when I say that. I've actually had fairly good results after an initial kind of pain period. I resisted switching from XP to Vista for a really long time. I bought a new machine that was 64-bit and really wanted to use the 64-bit operating system, so I switched to Vista. And quite honestly, the only problem that I had with it was getting a printer that I had to work. I got that sorted out, and actually since then it's been great. My business partner Kevin Pasco uses the exact same setup I do, but he's on Windows 7, and he's had really good results with that too. So between the two systems, I think, you know, if you go 7, if you go Vista, you know, I think you're in really good shape, and I think they're actually, I'm one of the few people out there actually advocating to go ahead and switch up to you know, up to the 64-bit, some of the current systems. So as far as the Mac version, Matt, I don't know if you guys have any plans for that. I'm not aware of any, but
Yeah, I mean, we all use Macs. We love to do that until Rhino's not really set up to handle plugins on the Mac side yet, so we just wait for them. But let's see, another question. Can you convert the pipe to NURBS? I guess we didn't really show any NURBS conversion, but could you show how that goes to NURBS, Kyle?
Yeah, it's really, really hard.
I guess you have to find the button first. There
The hardest thing is finding the button. If I right-click on the convert command, oops, actually if I left-click, let's see, right-click, convert to NURBS. There we go. Oh, actually, this is already NURBS. Yeah, now it's a polysurface. See, it was so hard I didn't even see it happen.
Yeah, maybe you could explode that so they can see how it broke that up.
Yeah. So this is Rhino polysurfaces now. So, and the cool thing about this is, since this is a polysurface, you'll notice if I select this, it'll say there's 32 surfaces if I join it. 32 surfaces joined into one closed polysurface. We love that. This is watertight. This will go to SLA machine. This will go to Pro Engineer. This will go to SolidWorks. This will go to FEA. This will go to anything you want it to go to as a watertight piece. You can also thicken it and create wall thickness if you need to.
Let's see. There's a really good question that came in, Kyle, and that is, how will your modeling change from version 2 to version 3? For example, you had a lot of version 2 tutorials with an append face extrude workflow. Mm-hmm. What about version 3 may or may not alter your workflow?
Well, I have to say I'm going to use the pipe command a lot. I can see that right now because, I mean, just look at this guy. You know, for a start, from being able to take 4 curves or 3 curves and then have a model that's this logically laid out from a patch structure point of view, this is going to help me a lot as far as getting flying head starts on a lot of stuff. Obviously, it has to be something that's conducive to, you know, some sort of tubular shape or something like that. But the biggest thing that that's gonna change is the speed improvements, and the fact that going into that fast mode and being able to, you know, really throw the model around is going to help a lot, because I did find that when I start getting into more complicated models, I would have to work in box mode, you know, to do my modifications in order to do it efficiently, and so there's a lot of switching back and forth and lots of clock watching as the thing converted back and forth. With the new fast mode, I'm going to be able to design on the fly in smooth mode, make all my decisions and get the form there, and then obviously I can refine it by changing the display mode later. So I think fundamentally my workflow is not going to change much. I tend to be a real cinder block kind of guy when I'm looking for a simple method of building stuff, and so I use that append face workflow a lot. So, you know, a very long answer to a simple question. I think that the pipe command is going to help a lot, and the speed improvements are really going to be the two things that I'm going to notice most.
Okay. Let's see. some more in-depth questions. Here's a question about the pipe command. Basically, at what stage, if you're working with the T-spline that you piped, does it kind of break the history and you can't go back? Basically, as soon as you start moving the T-splines control points, then it will break the Rhino history. It's just kind of consistent with all the other Rhino history behavior. So you do kind of want to drive the model by moving the curves as much as you can, and then start moving the T-splines control points. And then if you do want to go back to the curves, I mean, you could just pipe the model over again. But that's the answer. As soon as you start working on the actual T-splines control points, then you won't be able to drive it with the curves anymore.
Yeah. One quick note about history too. I just want to put this idea in your head. I'm a big believer in clip art libraries. I create, hundreds and hundreds of models a year, and I'm always looking for little bits and pieces that I've created in those models that I stick in a file that I can repurpose later for other stuff. And say you're an eyewear designer, you can create a frame profile using curves and the pipe command, and then save that thing off as a piece of clip art or as a library item, and bring it back at a later date next time you have to do frames, and your frame is already there. You can then go in and just change the shape by driving the original curves. Your T-spline is going to update, and you've just saved that initial lay your curves out, pipe the thing, make your adjustments, do all this kind of stuff. You've just clipped like an hour of futzing around getting the file set up and ready to roll by saving this thing with history. You could change the temples. Instead of being a wrap temple, they could be a straight temple. Instead of being a straight bridge, it can have a little dip in it. And that's all stuff that you can variate by using it to drive the curves. The jewelry guys can use that stuff too, in the fact that, say you've got a setting that you made off this pipe command, and you can make really complicated stuff, out of this thing. You can save the most basic version of that off as a separate file, and the history will be intact when you bring it back in. And then you can go ahead and use that thing to variate and then go from there. So anything that you can do to set yourself up so that you're getting these flying head starts, you're kind of getting a double benefit by using T-splines, to speed things up in the first place, but then being able to revisit the historical construction of an object and use that to speed up your process later. You can really hack huge chunks of time out of your workflow.
Okay. We've got another question. I just bought T-splines in, well, I just got a lot more questions and lost that one. In October. What will the upgrade cost be, and are you offering free buyers new upgrades? Yeah, the standard upgrade price will be $199, and if you do buy T-splines today or anytime in the future, you will get that as a free upgrade. People that bought it in October, which I think maybe have just been like a few days, I can't remember when we released the first whip. I mean, to be perfectly honest, we're not like a huge monolithic corporation, and we do care about every one of our customers. So if you feel like you bought T-splines right before the upgrade and that it's not a fair price for you because you just barely bought it, I mean, to be completely honest, just get in touch with us and let's talk and make sure that we can keep you work T-splines and get that to you in a way that you feel is fair. But yeah, the standard price will be $200. So let's see. Here's another question. Can you render T-spline models without converting them to NURBS?
That's a good question. I've always converted them to NURBS and gone. I've never actually tried it.
Yeah, actually, you can render them directly.
That's cool. So it doesn't convert it to NURBS when it goes through that process.
Yeah, because we often convert to NURBS just automatically behind the scenes, and so you don't need to convert to NURBS before you render.
Great. There's a question on the bike frame, Matt, and the symmetry in the bike frame patch layout, and I think that has to do with the fact that the the patch layout is based on a square box, and in order to get enough patches to actually make all those transitions and everything, you'd need more faces around that. So the bike frame I like as a demo because it shows, you know, a really recognizable object with some really awesome transitions in it. The fix for that would be to go through and really fastidiously line up all your alignment handles. But I think I think the actual answer is that you need more faces around. You know, instead of it just being 4 faces around, I think you need, you know, 5 or 7 in order to be able to create, you know, a round symmetric object and have it make those transitions correctly. So in that case for the bike frame, what I would do if I was using that tool for it is I would lay the bike frame out. I would pick which side that I wanted. I would just delete the one side, add the faces, and then stitch the thing back together, which is still, you know, way faster than trying to build the thing from scratch.
Okay. Here's another high-level question, Kyle. When do you decide to use Rhino curves to create a T-spline surface, or simply start modeling in T-splines directly?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Just kind of in general, taking a step back with your workflow, when do you start T-splines model from curves, and when do you start just like with the T-splines primitive or something?
Well, you know, for me, I really, like I said, I have a really simplistic approach to how I like to do this stuff. The most important thing for me is to kind of logically plod through the layout of the patches so that they make sense in my head. And for me, you know, everybody has a different way of doing that. I know Juan builds a lot of stuff with curves, and he gets really phenomenal results. That requires you to kind of plan how your curves are going to lay out and how your patches are going to lay out and all that kind of stuff. For me, when I do that a pen-face workflow that you've seen a bunch of times on some of the other demos, it allows me to kind of very clinically and very logically lay out the patches so that they do what I want them to do. My business partner Kevin Pascoe uses primitives a lot, and you know, he just built a truck cab for us recently that was phenomenal, and it started from a cube, and so it's kind of personal preference as to what you like best. Sometimes I like to use curves if I know that there's a very specific shape that I have to hit, but most of the time when I'm doing T-splines, and one of the real benefits to me as a designer is the fact that I don't have to really get all that tight to start with, and so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll start laying out patches and just pushing forms around until I see something that I like, and then develop it from there, which is fantastic to be able to do that because it's difficult to do that in NURBS.
Let's see, Kyle, could you just go ahead and change the display so that we get the smooth start points? And this is something that we're going to get a better UI for before the final product is released, as far as changing between the compatible and fast and smooth. But you can just change that to smooth, just so we can see the so that's the fast mode with those creases. But if you could go in the options and just change that to fast, just so you can see those intersections a little bit better. Again, we're going to get an easier way to toggle between those, but this is what the actual model will look like. So here's a question, Kyle, you probably have more experience with this than I do. Will all the information be saved when moving a file from Rhino 5 to Rhino 4?
I have had good results in moving a T-splines model from 5 into 4. Obviously, you have to save it in Rhino 4 format to start with. So I have not run across a case where it has failed on me yet. But again, this is all work in progress stuff. So what you're getting right now might not be what you get as it goes through, as far as, you know, when McNeil releases the final product. So I think it's a good habit. If you have to get the thing into 4, I think it's a good habit to do some testing on your own and make sure that that works. But it's worked here for me.
Let's see. I think Frank, we're coming up at 1 o'clock, and that's a lot of the questions that I can see. Do you want to take over?
Yeah, definitely. Did we lose Kyle? I think, or
Nope.
did he, oh, okay. That was just super abrupt. No, well, I just want to first of all say thank you to both of you guys for that presentation. It was all these new features in version 3 are really cool, and I'm sure that everyone that participated in the webinar would probably agree. Let me just show my screen real quick. Hey, look at those guys. So yeah, but then I want to thank everyone else also for attending the Novedge Best of the Best webinar series. If anyone out there is not familiar with Novedge, we're the leading online design superstore. We not only have the best prices, which is kind of a given, it's a general understanding that we have the best price. But our staff is really awesome, and you're a click chat or a phone call or anything away from answering a lot of questions, and we actually know quite a bit as far as what's going on. And I know that before the actual demo started, I promised a really cool announcement. Hey, there's a picture of our website, novedge.com. But bam, look at that, $25 off T-Splines. So all you got to do is throw that code into the checkout. If you're at novedge.com looking to buy T-Splines, you get $25 off automatically, and that's already on the best price for T-Splines that you can possibly get anyway. And it's going to expire, so you have about 9 days. It'll expire on Christmas Eve. So I know a lot of you are looking to get T-Splines for your loved one for Christmas. So there you go. There's a special deal on that. I also kind of wanted to draw everyone's attention to another bit of info that I think is to everyone's benefit. Here at Novedge, we kind of like to go above and beyond as far as the design community is concerned. I know Matt and Kyle know, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with Rhino Jungle as well, but we've created a couple of different communities that kind of foster collaboration and communication between design professionals, design students, and people that are just generally in the CAD field. And one of these is Rhino Jungle. You can see it on your screen right there. It's free. It's really quick and fast and easy to sign up. And once you do, you have instant access to forums, blogs, news, updates, info. These webinars, for example, this webinar right now it's being recorded will be available there, as well as all of our other webinars. There's actually a wealth of T-Splines webinars in our video section, so you get videos and tutorials, tips, tricks. Matt, you're a member, aren't you?
I sure am.
Yeah, so I mean, Matt's a member. So I mean, he's answering questions, contacting people, posting blogs and stuff. So it's a really neat tool to kind of stay in touch with everything that's going on. Once again, it's rhinojungle.com. Really quick, really easy to sign up for that. If you have any questions or comments regarding this webinar, feel free to shoot me an email. You can see it right there on your screen. It's frank@novedge.com. And to stay up to date on any other webinars that we're going to be doing in the future, this is a bi-weekly series. We're actually going to be taking a really quick break for the holidays, but we'll be back on January 5th with a webinar with Greg Hilmar, the lighting guru, on Vectorworks Spotlight 2011. But we definitely have more Rhino-related webinars planned for the future, so make sure you stay tuned for that. That's pretty much it on my end. I want to thank you guys again. That was definitely awesome. Yeah, so I hope everyone has a good day. Happy holidays. Be safe.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Frank.
Cheers.